Sup, serial offenders. Welcome to Serial Bowl, where we serve up the most chilling true crime stories.
Serial Bowl, where the truths collide. Unmask the shadows, no place to hide. Breaking down the stories, revealing the fate. Join the conversation, let's drop the blade. This is Serial Bowl.
This week's dish: the acid bath murders. John Haigh's story is a truly disturbing recipe of violence and deception. Is your stomach strong enough? Let's dig in and find out. John George Haigh, born under an ominous star in Lincolnshire on July 24, 1909, extinguished the lives of, perhaps, as many as 9 souls. 6 met their documented end at his hand, while the whispers of 3 more echo from his chilling confessions. The sole offspring of John Robert and Emily Haigh, devout members of the Plymouth Brethren, a sect steeped in austere Protestantism, young John George's childhood was a tapestry woven with threads of religious terror. Night after night, he wrestled with sleep, tormented by recurring nightmares of divine retribution. Yet, amidst this darkness, flickered a love for classical music. He found solace in concert halls, his own fingers eventually mastering the piano's keys. He even lent his voice to the church choir, a chilling counterpoint to the darkness within. His departure from school marked the end of innocence and the beginning of a descent. Dismissed from his engineering post for pilfering a cash box, he slithered into the shadows, forging card documents to line his pockets. At 25, he wed Beatrice Hamer, a 23-year-old woman whose life would soon unravel. Their union festered quickly, a breeding ground for resentment. As Beatrice plotted her escape, John found himself imprisoned for fraud, a twist of fate that granted her the opportunity to vanish, placing their newborn daughter into adoption and disappearing without a trace. Even John's own family, horrified by his actions, cast him out into the cold. Released from prison, he drifted to London, a phantom in the night, his fraudulent schemes continuing unabated. Caught once more, this time masquerading as a solicitor, he was sentenced to 4 years. But prison walls could not contain his inner demons. He returned to his life of deceit, each subsequent shorter sentence fueling a simmering rage. With every conviction, his bitterness intensified, a venomous brew directed at those who dared to accuse him. This festering anger ignited an obsession with Georges Alexandre Surette, the French serial killer who dissolved his victims' bodies in sulfuric acid. Haigh, driven by a morbid curiosity, conducted his own macabre experiments, using field mice as his unwilling subjects. He discovered the horrifying truth. 30 minutes. That was all it took for sulfuric acid to obliterate all trace of their lives. In 1943, fate, in the form of a chance encounter in a pub, reunited Haigh with his former employer, William McSwan. A twisted friendship blossomed, leading Haigh into the fold of William's parents, Donald and Amy. But beneath the surface of civility, envy gnawed at him. He craved their wealth. The life he felt was rightfully his. Then, in September of that year, William vanished. His distraught parents turned to Haigh for comfort, and the serpent, cloaked in concern, reassured them that their son had merely fled to Scotland to evade military service. The grieving couple, desperate for solace, invited Haigh to live with them, entrusting him with William's responsibilities, such as collecting rent from tenants that had rent out the McSwans' lavish London properties. A chilling invitation, a prelude to unimaginable horror. 2 years crawled by, the world teetering on the precipice of peace as World War II neared its end. But within the walls of the McSwan residence, a different kind of war raged, a war of worry. Donald and Amy's concern for their missing son, William, had festered into a gnawing dread. Haigh, ever the manipulator, offered hollow reassurances, spinning tales of William's continued absence. Then, on July 2nd, a chilling charade began. Haigh, with a sickeningly sweet smile, informed the elderly couple that William had finally returned. He lured them to a basement in Gloucester Road, promising a joyous reunion. But instead of a warm embrace, they were met with the icy grip of terror. Haigh, his mask of civility finally slipping, revealed the horrifying truth. He had taken the life of their beloved son at the exact spot they stood in. And now, their lives, too, were forfeit. With brutal blows to the head, he extinguished their existence, consigning them to the same gruesome fate as William. Their bodies were submerged in a 40 imperial gallon drum filled with corrosive sulfuric acid, a macabre baptism into oblivion. 2 days later, the acid having done its ghastly work, Haigh, with chilling nonchalance, poured the liquefied remains into a manhole, and went on to sell the McSwan's valuables and properties, and collected their pension checks. With newly found blood-soaked wealth, he moved into the opulent Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. Its grand facade masked the darkness he carried within. He took a suite, not a room, reveling in the plush carpets, the heavy drapes, the attentive staff, who knew nothing of the horror he'd committed, the charade he was living. By 1947, having gambled away most of the money, Haigh's anxiety clawed at him, a ravenous beast. The gilded cage of the Onslow Court suddenly felt like a trap. How was he going to survive? The thought of slinking back to his previous life, the life of a nobody, was a torment he wouldn't bear. So, the monstrous craving to repeat his unspeakable acts took hold, a dark, irresistible compulsion. It was then, within the walls of that luxurious hotel, that his predatory gaze settled on his next victims. Rose Berlin, ex-wife of German inventor Rudolf Aron, had found love again and was now wife to Archibald Henderson. The couple were selling a house, which John feigned interest in to insinuate himself into their lives. Upon learning that he was a skilled pianist, they unwittingly invited him to play at their upcoming housewarming party. It was there, amidst the soon-to-be shattered joy and laughter, that he stole Archibald's gun, the instrument of their impending, horrifying demise. He quietly secured a small, isolated workshop on Leopold Road in West Sussex. Under the cover of secrecy, he moved drums and containers of acid into the space, their presence a chilling, unspoken promise of what was to come. He maintained a strange duality, retreating at intervals to the opulent surroundings of lavish hotels, a stark contrast to the grim purpose of his workshop. The true reason for these luxurious stays remains a disturbing, unanswered question, a dark, unsettling void in the narrative. The air hung heavy with an unspoken dread on February 12, 1948. Haigh, his voice betraying a macabre anticipation, spoke to Archibald of a new invention, a creation he was eager to unveil. He drove Archibald to the secluded workshop on Leopold Road, the promise of innovation, a gruesome, irresistible lure. But instead of revealing a marvel of engineering, Haigh coldly and methodically shot Archibald in the head with his own stolen revolver. The sharp crack of the gunshot ripped through the silence of the workshop, a chilling punctuation mark in the quiet horror. Without a moment's hesitation, without a flicker of remorse, Haigh then contacted Rose, Archibald's wife, weaving a deceitful tale of her husband's sudden illness. Driven by wifely concern, Rose hurried to the workshop, unaware that she was walking not into a scene of sickness, but into a carefully constructed trap, a silent, waiting tomb. She shared her husband's ghastly fate. The isolated workshop on Leopold Road, swallowing 2 more souls into its silent, terrifying embrace, the acid waiting to complete its gruesome work. With a chillingly familiar detachment, Haigh went about the grim business of disposing of the couple's bodies. Their belongings, their valuables, every last trace of their existence, was systematically catalogued and sold. He was ruthlessly efficient, turning their lives into cold, hard cash. except for two things. He kept their car, already a little unsettling, but then he also kept their dog. And that's just deeply disturbing. It adds a layer of coldness, a hint of something truly twisted, to the whole horrific picture. What was he thinking? Olive Duran Deacon, a 69-year-old widow, became Haig's final confirmed victim, her fate sealed by a seemingly innocuous conversation. A former resident of Onslow Court, she had confided in a friend about her aspirations to launch a business selling artificial nails. Haigh, with an opportunistic ear, overheard this seemingly trivial exchange. He seized upon this innocent ambition, weaving a deceptive narrative around his own fabricated identity as an engineer. This pretense, this carefully constructed lie, became the hook that reeled her in. He enticed Olive to his workshop, promising her a chance to realize her business dreams. Little did she know, she was not walking into an opportunity, but into the cold, calculated embrace of death. Using the same weapon that had ended the Hendersons' lives, he shot Olive in the back of the neck. The single gunshot echoed with chilling finality within the workshop. He then proceeded to strip her of her valuables, including a Persian lamb coat, and coldly deposited her body into the acid bath. 2 days later, Olive was reported missing. Detectives, following a trail that exposed the eerie depravity of John Haigh's past, executed a search warrant on his workshop. They unearthed papers and documents belonging to his victims, their lives reduced to bureaucratic remnants. Among the debris, a dry cleaner's receipt for a Persian lamb coat. Olive's coat. The grim calculus of Haigh's crimes became brutally clear. This was not a disappearance. It was a calculated execution. The final gruesome pieces of the puzzle were soon unearthed. Pathologist Keith Simpson's examination of a refuse pile at the rear of the Leopold Road premises, a makeshift graveyard necessitated by the workshop's lack of a floor drain, unlike the Gloucester Road location where he had committed the McSwan murders, revealed the chilling extent of Haigh's depravity. 28 pounds of human fat, a partial human foot, human gallstones, a fragment of a denture. These grim discoveries, pulled from the refuse, offered irrefutable evidence of unspeakable acts, painting a horrifying tableau of dismemberment and chemical dissolution. The sheer volume of human remains, the casual disregard for their disposal, the macabre specificity of the findings, solidified the chilling truth. John Haigh was not simply a murderer, he was a monster. Upon his arrest, Haigh readily confessed to the 6 murders with which he was charged. He further claimed responsibility for the deaths of 3 individuals, a young man named Max, a girl from Eastbourne, and a woman from Hammersmith. These additional allegations, however, remained unsubstantiated, lacking any corroborating evidence. At his trial, Haigh entered a plea of insanity. His defense hinged on the claim that childhood dreams, saturated with images of blood, had compelled him to drink the blood of his victims. He testified that these disturbing visions, dormant for a time, had returned with renewed intensity after a car accident in 1944. He chillingly recounted a dream of a forest of crucifixes which gradually turned into trees. The branches, initially appearing to drip with dew or rain, soon revealed themselves to be oozing blood.
The whole forest began to writhe,
he described,
and the trees, dark and erect, to ooze blood.
He further claimed that a figure emerged from the trees, collecting the blood in a cup before commanding him to drink, a command he asserted he was powerless to disobey. This macabre testimony, delivered with an unsettling calm, painted a portrait of a man driven by deeply disturbing hallucinations. The courtroom fell silent as the Attorney General, Sir Hartley Shawcross KC, rose to address the jury. His words, sharp and precise, cut through the carefully constructed facade of Haig's insanity plea. Shawcross, later Lord Shawcross, argued that Haig's actions were not the product of madness, but of cold, calculated malice. He urged the jury to see through the theatrics, to recognize the deliberate, premeditated nature of the crimes. Haigh, he asserted, had acted with malice aforethought, a deliberate intent to kill. The weight of the prosecution's case settled upon the courtroom, a heavy blanket of dread, as he dismantled Haig's defense, piece by piece. Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, K.C., Haig's defense attorney, paraded a procession of witnesses before the jury, each one tasked with bolstering the crumbling edifice of his sanity plea. Henry Yellowlees testified that Haigh had a
paranoid constitution,
but his most chilling observation was Haig's
absolute callous, cheerful, bland, and almost friendly indifference
to his crimes. Yellowlees described this as
unique in my experience,
portraying Haigh as a detached and remorseless killer. Haig's fatal error lay in his belief that a body was essential for a murder conviction. He was tragically mistaken. The jury returned their verdict in mere minutes. Guilty. Justice Humphreys, showing no leniency, sentenced him to death. Haig's execution, carried out by the renowned hangman Albert Pierrepoint on August 10, 1949, was a swift and clinical affair. The body was left to hang for the customary period before being taken down and examined by a doctor, confirming death. The grim ritual, a final act of justice, was complete. The story of John Haigh is a chilling testament to the darkness that can reside within the human heart. It leaves us with a haunting question. What drives a person to commit such unspeakable atrocities? What twisted logic fuels such cold-blooded violence? What do you think motivated John Haigh? Share your theories in the comments below. Whoa, serial offenders. That was a heavy one, right? John Haigh, definitely not someone you'd want to bring home to mom, unless your mom's a forensic scientist. If you're now side-eyeing your bathtub and wondering if you have enough baking soda on hand, then you've officially been serial bowled. Give this video a like if you're as disturbed and as fascinated as we are, and subscribe for more true crime treats, or should we say tricks, delivered straight to your cereal bowl. And let's take a moment to remember the victims. May they find eternal peace, and may their families never trust a friendly stranger with a suspiciously large drum of acid. Peace out.